Coming up on the program tonight, swimmer's itch strikes at Lake Taupo. The jet sprints are back again, an app for boating and robots to take over the world. Kia ora, welcome to Central News for Tuesday the 20th of January. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Members of the public are being advised to exercise caution when in contact with shallow water following two reports at the south end of Lake Taupo to Toi Te Ora Public Health Service of allergic rash. Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Jim Miller, says although not confirmed, it is possible these may be cases of sericarial dermatitis, also known as swimmer's itch or duck itch. This is caused by exposure to tiny larvae or cercaria in the water, most commonly found in shallow and relatively warm areas. The larvae can cause an allergic irritation of the skin, which is generally minor and self-limiting. However, if the rash is extensive or does not improve for more than a few days, seek medical advice. NetSafe is warning New Zealand charities taking online donations to be on the alert after receiving two reports this week of cyber criminals launching automated attacks that attempt to validate large numbers of stolen credit cards. In the first incident, almost 50,000 attempts were made to rapidly submit fake donations through a website, with the aim being to test which credit cards could be used for subsequent online fraud or sold on to other internet scammers. More than 2,000 successful donations were made, resulting in the charity having to enlist the help of their bank and merchant account provider to refund the fraudulent payments. They also spent time dealing with inquiries from cardholders around the world questioning the transactions. Hamilton artist Alex McLeod has added the colours of cricket to a Hamilton bridge just a few metres from the city's international cricket ground, Seddon Park. The attention-grabbing cricket-themed mural is on a concrete wall on Tristram Street, part of the road structure that goes over the westbound rail lane running through the CBD. Andy Mannering, Hamilton City Council's Social Development Manager, says the mural is the latest in a series of pieces Mr McLeod has done for Council as part of an ongoing Tag Busters anti-graffiti initiative. The cause of a power cut in Welcome Bay last night was a young, dumb seagull, says New Zealand Fire Service Greeton Station Officer Steve Wright. Large parts of Welcome Bay lost power when the seagull landed on the power pole at the corner of Welcome Bay and Waitaha Roads at 5:44 p.m. Nearby residents called the fire brigade when they heard an explosion and subsequently lost power. The power was out to Welcome Bay shops and quite a few houses in the surrounding area. Now for our region's weather, Hamilton mainly fine with southerlies developing. Your expected high is 26 and an overnight low of 11. For the rest of the Waikato, areas of morning cloud and then fine. Southerlies in parts. Paeroa, your expected high is 27 and an overnight low of 14. Matamata 24 and 12. Te Awamutu 26 and 11. Tokoroa 24 and 11. Tauranga, fine spells with a chance of a shower and southerlies developing there. 26 is your expected high and an overnight low of 11. The rest of the bay of plenty, you can expect fine spells and isolated showers with a developing southerly. To Puke, you can expect a high of 25 and an overnight low of 12. Looking to the seas now for our marine forecast. West coast, Raglan, southwest 15 knots, rising Wednesday afternoon to a southwest of 25 knots with quite rough seas out there. High tide is at 10:50 in the morning. East Coast Bay plenty, developing Wednesday afternoon a southwest of 20 knots. High tide is at 7:37 a.m. Just ahead, robots and the worlds. Welcome back to Central News on TV Central. The House of Science VEX robotics team has gone from strength to strength, with 2 competitive high school robots performing extremely well in the Bay of Plenty scrimmages, and a VEX IQ team of intermediate age students also ready to take on the local opposition. I caught up with 2 robotic champions off to the world champs.
So Kate, what are you building here?
I'm building a robot for the VEX competition Skyrise, which involves cubes and plastic poles which you have to build on top of one another. So the part that I'm working on at the moment is the lift, which is designed to be able to pick up the cubes and put it on top of the poles or the Skyrise. So it's got wheels so it can move forward and back, and it's got gears which mean that it can put lots of torque outwards from the small little motor.
Now, you've got to be able to lift one of these things, don't you, Dean?
Yep.
So what's the aim of the game?
So each game is 2 minutes with 15 seconds at the start. Robot does, pre-program things to as many points as you can in 15 seconds. Then minute 45, driver control to get as many points. Then end of the game, total score. And each one of these on a post is 2 points. Each one at the top of a post is worth 3 points, so you get points for owning it. So this one be worth 3, but all the ones below are worth 2.
Not only is it complicated to build one of these things, it sounds really complicated to actually score.
Yeah.
So you're actually halfway through your machine, aren't you? It's over there, we can't show you because it's competition, we don't want to give away the secrets. So you're halfway through, or you're kind of putting the finishing touches?
Kind of making small adjustments and fine-tuning, just changing things to make generally everything more reliable and work faster or stronger. So there's like with the lift, if it sways side to side at the top, then it's not going to be that good for driving around quickly. You can kind of break things easily. So just making things stronger so it's just doesn't twist or anything.
Now, you guys went to the Worlds last year. How was it?
It was really good. It was an amazing experience. It was both of our first times at Worlds. We both did really well. Dean and his team ended up second in your division, and my team ended up winning our division and losing in a very, very close game of the finals against another New Zealand team. So it was pretty awesome to do that well.
How big is the Worlds when it comes to robotics?
Pretty big. There's around 4,000 to 5,000 people competing and about upwards of 500 teams, I guess.
So what are the prerequisites? You've got to use this kind of material? Do you get given the stuff beforehand, or can I go out and make a robot out of wood?
So it's all put out by the big company VEX, who runs the whole competition, and they put out like different lengths of metal, different wheels, gears, sprockets, whatever you need to use. But the only parts that we can use are the VEX parts. So yeah, we have to go and buy all the parts, which can end up being quite expensive. The robots that we took to World last year were worth about $4,000.
Well, I guess every sport can get quite expensive nowadays, can't it? And yeah, it sounds like this is one of the more expensive ones.
Yeah. Well, I came from horse riding, so this was a bit cheaper than that.
Yeah, actually, I'd rather my daughter get into robots than horses. Yeah, they can be expensive. And a robot is easier to fix than a horse.
It definitely is.
So do you think you have a chance of winning, or do you think New Zealand has a chance of winning this year?
Well, New Zealand's been in the winning team for the last 5 years or so I think New Zealand is always really, really strong when it comes to robotics, and I think we have a really good chance of winning again.
Now, we're all the way at the end of the world, one might say, or a lot of people do say. Why do you think that we're so good at robotics, of all things?
the number 8 wire mentality, I think. We're really good at kind of innovating and coming up with ideas that nobody else has come up with, and I think that definitely shows in robotics, yeah.
You build a robot, you do it through high school, you go to the Worlds, you become a champion. Where does that lead you? Are you going to be our next robot designer building our cars that fly? Where does it lead you?
Hopefully into uni, studying mechatronics or something along engineering, and usually kind of electronic kind of careers, or sometimes it's computer programming things. There's a lot of technological advances and stuff that you learn about, like how to get to certain points, like how to keep logs of everything that you do, how to keep track of anything that you do to innovate and to find new ways to do things that no one else has thought of. So it's kind of pretty good practice to just keep a log of everything. It's like engineering notebook, which I've kind of not done too many times.
You haven't been keeping up with your homework of robotics?
Not really.
You're not the first teenager to do that. What is the most satisfying part? Is it, people say with artworks like they never finish. Do you get that with a robot? Is there a satisfying moment when you say, I finished, or are you constantly looking at it going, oh, I could have tweaked that and I could have tweaked that little bit?
Usually it's always, oh, I wish I'd gone and changed that. After the competition finishes or the new game is released, then you always, before you really get into the new game, you keep thinking, oh, what if I could have done this in the other robot? What if I could have done this to make it better? What if I could have done this strategy in different game, and you would have could have won or gone further in competitions. So,
who won last year? What do you think made that team the winning team?
I think it wasn't so much a great robot, because it was good in its own certain aspects, but I think the main group had one really good offensive robot and one really good defensive robot, and I know that just played strategy-wise together really well, because they'd spoken a bit beforehand, and just really good in general.
And that's the funny thing about this sport is, in the end, you actually you're teamed up with a team that you've never met before. Explain how it works, because it sounds complicated building the things in a complicated sport to me.
So during the qualification rounds, which are kind of, you get allianced with any random robot from any random country or school or whatever. And you try to do as well as you can, so you have to try and talk to them and figure out what strategy you're going to play. Some people ended up teamed with people who don't speak English, which is a bit of an issue. But then once you finish those rounds, you get to the stage where the top 8 ranked people get to choose their alliances, which are the people who they think that they could work really well with. So they end up working with people who they know they can do well with and playing strategy, and you get a little bit of time to actually talk to each other and figure out what you're going to do. Yeah.
And then you have an offensive and a defensive robot attacking, and kind of like a real gridiron football game, I guess.
Yeah, so during the game you can either have 2 really strong offensive robots and you just go all out and try to score as much as you possibly can, but you can also end up with an offensive robot which is trying to score as many points as possible, and a defensive robot who heads over to the other side of the field and tries to stop the other team from scoring, which can end up being pretty difficult to face.
Coming up next, an app to help you on the water. Welcome back to Central News. If you are out there on the water this summer and you'd like to know more about the weather and the boating situation, you can download the Marine app. Amanda Harper found out more.
So the award was with Coast Guard Boating Education, and the award itself was for education and innovation and technology. So it was like a combined Supreme Award.
Excellent. Marine Mate smartphone app has been obviously quite successful, downloaded over 20,000 times. Why do you think it's been a great success?
I think it's because people are now into using smartphones quite regularly. The technology's moved along that it's now achievable for councils to be able to do apps. They're not sort of bleeding edge technology, and it gave people what they want. It solved a problem.
And how did the project all come together? Who had the original idea to create an app for boat safety in the Waikato?
Yeah, so that was my team. It was actually a bit of a throwaway comment. We were talking about when you go from different regions, if you go from Bay of Plenty over the hill into Waikato, the rules can change, and it just happened to be a bit of a throwaway comment. Oh, it'd be great if there was an app for that. And we sort of just laughed. And then we sort of started talking about it a little bit more, and we thought, hey, we could actually do this, and we went for it.
It was a bit of a collaboration on funding in order to provide a free app. Who backed the project?
Well, who didn't really? There was 17 councils, 17 regional councils and 5 central government agencies. The big ones being Maritime New Zealand and Land Information New Zealand, because they've got a lot of the information that we wanted to make it attractive to users.
And it's been a year since the launch. Have you had to make any tweaks?
Yeah, we've done quite a few. The best thing about apps is that your users give you feedback. So we took all the feedback that we got from the Apple Store and from Google Play and used that to make the app better. When we first started, it was a little bit clunky, and we wanted to just get the information out there and get people to say what they wanted, and that way we could improve it and have it good for their users. We're doing a very, very major upgrade which is coming out in the next week or so, which is the biggest change that we've done all year, so we're really excited about it.
And it's obviously great for people using Waikato waterways, but what about other areas in New Zealand?
Yeah, so Marine Mate is nationwide, so it's all councils that have a responsibility for navigation safety across the whole country. And the best thing about it was that there was some smaller councils that couldn't afford it, because I mean $5,000 can be quite a lot for some of the small councils, and it was really important to ACC that the whole country was covered, because it's part of their accident prevention, and so they funded 6 councils to make it nationwide.
And so say that I'm going out on my boat for the day in the Whangaroa Harbour. Does this app have everything that I need to know, or are there some things that the app just can't predict?
Yeah, so weather's one of them. We don't have weather on Marine Mate, and the simple reason for that is that other apps do it very, very well and already have collaborations with Maritime New Zealand for it. But if you're going out, then you'd start the night before and you'd check the tides, you'd know which time you want it to go out, you'd know what the local rules are, and where you can or can't do the activity that you want to, depending on if it's powered or non-powered.
Can you run us through the Marine Mate app and how it works?
Yes, definitely. There's probably 3 main features. The biggest feature is the tide times, which people find really attractive. And the best thing about this app is it's the first time that LINZ has actually put the tide times out that have been adjusted for daylight saving and also secondary ports. So you check that to know when is the best time to go out, because not all boat ramps are available at all tides. Then you'd look at the local boating rules, and then perhaps at the boat ramps and the zones that you're going to go into.
You can download the app by visiting the Council's website, waikatoregion.gov.nz. The Bay Park Jet Sprints are back again this year, and yes, they will be inside the Bay Park Stadium again.
How much soil will have to be removed from Bay Park?
We're looking at around about 1,800 cubic metres of soil and fill that will have to be removed to dig the track. That works out at about 180 truckloads, give or take. We're not going to argue about a truckload or 2.
Seems like quite a big job. How many people have you got working on here?
Anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12 sort of people at any one time. We've got 5 or 6 people directly involved with the digging of the track and the moving of the soil, truck drivers. As you can see, the digger operating there, and we also have a few handymen running around as there's buried cables and pipes and all sorts of little issues we have to fix as we go, which is fine. And we also have site management over where we're dumping as well. We also have some ASB Bay Park staff working as well behind the scenes all the time, as well as our management team. that's busy beavering away for next weekend.
Are you feeling the pressure? I mean, is there a lot of expectation at being a world first?
I think so. I think this is going to be a huge event. Our online ticket sales are tracking ahead of the target and actually way ahead of what we had hoped. The buzz is all around town. We're fielding phone calls from Canada and Australia, and we've got 6 to maybe even 10 teams at this stage coming from Australia. And we've got 2 or 3 ex-world champs coming back from retirement in certain classes just to race for this particular event, so it should be absolutely fantastic.
How many boats, how many competitors are we talking that will be here?
There'll be 50 boats. We're a little bit unsure at this stage whether it might end up 51 or 2 because there might be double teaming on a single boat, so that they might be, say, 2 people driving the same boat, which is quite common, so yeah. But we're really limited to around about 50 competitors to get through in a day, and we actually tried to make sure that we were open to all the New Zealand competitors first, and we had to limit Australian entries, only for the reason that it's the New Zealand Championship and the New Zealand round, and we didn't want anybody missing out on that.
How does the competition work? Will there be heats?
Yes, but basically it's an elimination type event, so we start with some qualifying rounds. I think racing kicks off at 12 o'clock. We start with some qualifying rounds and then we move on to some elimination rounds further on, so the top 16, top 8, top 4 and then the top 3, and we find the final. The great thing about the event is you can actually you can fall out at any stage, so even if you're current world champion with the fastest previous time, it only takes one mistake and you're a DNF and you finish 28th in the field. So it's a great formula, I think, for racing and for staying exciting, because they've got to drive hard enough to make the top 8, and sometimes there's only half a second or a second separating those top 8, but they don't want to drive too hard to crash early in the eliminations, especially the better drivers. So it's a very fine line they've got to run all day.
The Jet Sprints are on this Saturday and Sunday this year, and gates are open at 3 p.m. Hope to see you there. That is Central News for today. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can via our Facebook page, centralnews.tv, or email us news@tvcentral.co.nz. Join me again tomorrow night for more stories from the Waikato and the Bay of Plenty. I'm Hilary Entwistle. I hope you have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.